a tribute to the late Dermot Morgan, presented by Miles Dungan.
Well, Miles, the 5 accused before the court are named as Dermot Morgan, Pauline McLynn, Jonathan White, Gerard Stembridge and a Mr Dermot O'Reilly, who was charged with impersonating the TV presenter Mr Gay Byrne. They heard how the scrap document had been forged by Morgan and Stembridge, assisted by Julian Clare, and how Mr Lachlan Butler Jr. had engineered the scam. Witnesses identified Mr Stembridge as the director, and it was at this stage that a struggle erupted as they all rushed forward and bit the judge on the penis.
The late Dermot Morgan in the radio series, which was the first to properly utilise his tremendous talents which now have sadly been lost since his shocking and untimely death in London last night. Tonight we're here partly to mourn his passing, but I think more to celebrate the great wit and the wickedly satirical sense of humour which he shared with us during his short life, and we're, I suppose, here to drink to the death of a clown. Let me begin by declaring a personal interest. I've known Dermot for a decade and a half. We were less than intimates, I suppose, but far more than acquaintances. In that time I've seen him up, down, up again, and finally triumphant. I've listened to his repartee, been the victim of his sharp tongue, and been kicked and jostled by him on the football field, and generally enjoyed his company. Tonight with me in studio are two of the people who've been closest to him personally and professionally. His frequent collaborator Gerry Stembridge, and his friend and relative, his cousin Donna Morgan, a man who found himself working closely, in fact, with three Taoiseach at a time when Dermot was lampooning all three of them. We'll talk to him about that presently. In our Limerick studio, where we hope to be talking also to one of his prime targets, Michael Noonan, and on the phone we'll be joined by some of his friends and his admirers. And the second half hour of this tribute programme will be the broadcasting of a full Scrap Saturday from November 1990. Donna, let's start with you. Let's start with, first of all, how the family of Dermot Morgan are coping with this shock bereavement.
Well, Miles, it's still not real for us. We're trying to get our heads around it. I'm still waiting for him to call. I know he was looking for me on Thursday evening last, rang my wife, missed me, rang him back, didn't make it, and
probably to tell you you're only a bollocks, which is he used to do frequently.
Words like that, or some other more unprintable ones that, you know, wouldn't be suitable for your radio programme.
Gerry, how did you find out about it? Where did you hear?
I suppose I'm glad to say that it was at least in a personal way. It was Pauline phoned me from London this morning, Pauline McLynn, who, again, we both have a long-time contact with him. I mean, Pauline's been a good friend of mine for years, was the female end of the Scrap Saturday team, along with Owen and myself and Dermot, and then of course continued to be his cohort on Father Ted. And so she's been working with him for the last 10 weeks and literally just finished on Friday night. And she woke up this morning to a phone call telling about it, and she phoned me straight away. And you know, we just didn't know what to say to each other. What to say? But I mean, what you really start thinking. It's strange because I've probably become more upset as the day goes on. When I first started, I just thought, oh my, you know, you just are shocked by it. But what's been curious as the days goes on, and just the series of phone calls and people coming in, and really people have been treating me as if I was a close relative or a brother. But I suppose, you know, friends of mine who knew of my certainly working partnership with Dermot were phoning to offer condolences and so on. And what has struck me actually is I'm delighted to say that the extraordinary swell of goodwill that I think we'll become even more aware of in the coming days, and realise just how much people love someone who can make them laugh, you know, more than anything else. There's like a real affection for that, and shock. I
became aware of it listening to the Sunday show, increasingly aware, shall we say, without actually knowing, and became aware, I think, when Andy O'Mahony mentioned a tribute from the Taoiseach to Dermot, and I was wondering what this was all about. And because of the fact that one doesn't get tributes like that until one has passed on, sadly, I got worried and actually rang the Sunday show to find out what was the problem. And we can actually give the Taoiseach an opportunity to repeat that tribute which he paid on the Sunday show this morning to Dermot, because Mr. Ahern is on the line now. Good evening to you, Mr. Ahern.
Good evening to you, Miles.
Your memories of Dermot?
Miles, if I can just first say to Donna and of course to all of the family, my heartfelt sympathies. Donna, of course, has worked with me for a long number of years in different capacities in Leinster House and now in the Taoiseach's department. I didn't get a chance of talking to him today, though I got the message through from him earlier on this morning through my private sec, so my sympathies to him. I think he was a person who made life a bit happier. Politics is a fairly serious business most of the time. We're dealing with a lot of the tough old lines of the day and the problems and the difficulties, and of course, you know, sometimes it's easy enough to have a go at us, but I think he did it in a way that was genuinely funny and that was light-hearted, and you know, in all the times, and I'm glad to say we're not saying this just when he's unfortunately left us, but he was discussed plenty of times in the Dáil restaurants and the bar over all of the years, and genuinely I think people could take it from him because of the way he did it. There's other people around who have a go at us, or people in newspaper columns have a go at us, and we take it more resentful, to be quite honest about it.
They're not as funny.
Yeah, well, I think he did it funny, and the fact that he was full of life, and I suppose the fact he spread it around a bit too. He didn't just concentrate on us, and I think that made it. And you know, I had a number of chances of meeting him around the years, and the Christmas of last year, Donna and myself had a few pints with him up in Baggot Street, and we had a good old chat, and we were talking to him. At that time, he was talking to me about how life was going so well for him, and you know, how things were taken over from a business point of view, and even though being a great comic, a great comedian, that you know, everybody has to make a crust, and he felt, I think, genuinely happy that things were going well, his career was going well, and I felt happy for him as well that that's the way it was.
And how do you think he did you? He did you a lot.
He did me a lot, yeah. Well, actually, you know, I'm a bit harder to do than some people because of accents. And he quite frankly, he wasn't very good at it.
I think we could debate that, Taoiseach.
On the contrary, Bertie, I think he does you better than you're doing you.
He was able to pick up a few of the words on the pronunciations, and he had those very right, all right.
There's people listening around the country and saying, that's not Bertie Ahern, that's someone doing a bad impression of him.
But I know I'd have to say he was good funny. And, you know, I was at a number of the shows, and he wouldn't have known where he was demolishing me. But, you know, you can take it when it's a show. If it's somebody doing it behind your back, well, you feel a bit resentful, but if somebody does it straight on...
He never bothered to do it behind anyone's back, Taoiseach, I think.
No, he was too busy.
Well, thank you very much indeed for joining in our tribute and for your own fulsome tribute.
And sympathy to his family.
Indeed. And thank you very much for your tribute to his talent. Let's go back not to the beginning of Dermot Morgan, but to, I suppose, the dawn of the career of Dermot Morgan. Something, again, I think those of us here remember. I remember it myself. I remember University College Dublin back in the 70s, and Big Gom and the Imbeciles, a takeoff of Big Tom, and one of the others involved in that enterprise was Billy McGrath, who joins me now on the line. Billy, your memories of Dermot during that period?
Well, I remember being in UCD, and myself and Dermot...
I'm surprised you do, actually.
Wait, what's that?
I said, I'm surprised you actually remember being in UCD, but carry on.
I do. No, we used to, myself and we had a little group called the Spike Milligan Comedy Machine, and we used to put on sketches. And a month later, I was approached by this guy called Dermot, who wanted to put on a show called The Big Cum and the Imbeciles. And I remember he asked me would I dress up as a nun, and because he wanted to involve a trio of nuns called the Sisters of Satan in the same group, and I was delighted to say that I did. But I think that was probably, I remember watching his first performance, and I suppose I'm really, really glad I was actually in the studios last Friday night to see his last performance. And there's been 20 years in between, and my memory of Dermot, and I suppose myself in some way of trying to carve a lonely furrow and introduce into the comedy into as many areas as possible, is that he never gave up. He knew he had a talent, he had a dream, and he had a will. And I know that Donna will remember this, his frustration of working in the R.I.P, and his will to leave to go into full-time entertainment. And I suppose the saddest thing, as a lot of people will probably talk about, is that now he was becoming recognised as an actor I know he was developing a screenplay and a film based on a story with Archbishop McQuaid along with Jerry. And I know that Granada were very interested in taking an option up on a new sitcom where he was going to play a Dutch ambassador.
You don't think that he had time to enjoy what he had actually taken so long to build up, despite all the discouragements and the reverses that he had along the way?
Well, probably that's the sad thing for me. I think he was really just, I mean, again, as I say, it was the last episode of Father Ted, and speaking to him briefly, but also speaking to John Fisher, who has worked with him for years, the sense of excitement on what was coming next. And I think that's the sad thing, where he'd be known as like he was known as sort of Big Gom in student days. He was known as Father Brian Trendy in later days, and then he was known as Father Ted. And I just wish that sort of people hadn't that he didn't become the Dermot Morgan. I think he was an all-round entertainer. I think he was a brilliant entertainer.
Indeed.
And I think in retrospect that people will remember, just like Elvis or John Lennon or Princess Diana, they'll always remember the time where they were when they heard that Dermot Morgan had passed away, and that's I think that's
tribute indeed. Billy, thank you very much for talking to us tonight. Thank you. Billy McGrath there, who was an associate, a long-time friend of Dermot Morgan's, and as you heard Billy say there, who was actually present at the recording of the last Father Ted. One man who has been at the receiving end of many of Dermot's snipes, and indeed many of those of Jerry Stembridge, is Michael Noonan, Fine Gael TD, who joins us now from our Limerick studio. Michael, I won't even bother asking you how well he did you, because he did you, probably as Jerry would say, better than you did yourself.
Star Awards programme above in the old examination hall in Belfield, the concert hall. Or Terrace, you know. And I was going out to...
I don't think Michael Noonan, can you actually hear us?
They're looking for me, I think, on the other side.
Yeah, we are looking for you on the other side. We're actually talking to you on the other side.
I will, yeah.
Hello, can you hear us? Michael? Okay, well, we haven't got Michael Noonan as yet hearing us in Limerick, but what we do have is this. We have an example of Dermot doing Michael Noonan, and hopefully we'll be able to make the comparison between the two. This is something that I recorded with Dermot many years ago, prior to a Eurovision Song Contest in the R.D.S.
24 hours, which is a long time in Eurovision Song Contests. There'll be a few people from Fianna Fáil who'll be trying to keep their seats here from the last Ardèche. So 'tis up to us to be ever vigilant,
Is that
and to sit and to hold the seats.
Those people up the back, is that who they are?
You can see the shine off their necks.
Okay, well, that is Michael Noonan. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to the man himself. But another victim on the line now, Mara. Good afternoon, good evening, PJ Mara.
Good evening, how are y'all?
Did you know the man well?
I did. He was a very good pal of mine. And we used to meet quite a bit when less frequently recently, obviously, because he was away working. But when he was around town, we'd always meet for a lunch or
drink,
a beer or three or whatever. So yeah, he was a friend, and I regarded him as such always.
And how did you regard his talent?
I thought he was terrifically talented, and sometimes I worried about that because you know, and I've heard a lot of people saying it today that. You know, I think he was bubbling over with talent, and I think sometimes that he needed to restrain himself a bit and be a bit more, maybe organised is probably not the word, but he just wanted to do so many things. And if you met him, he was different to other people in comedy, or you know, that, you know, when they're off stage, they're off stage. Dermot was always trying out new things or telling you about new ideas or new walks or new voices or new concepts. You know, it depended on just what was bothering him at the time. But he was all the time thinking, plotting, scheming, and he'd share that with you. You know, even when the ideas were only in embryo, if you like.
And it didn't bother you, the fact that every single week on Scrap Saturday you were depicted as the lapdog, the professional lapdog?
Well, I suppose, you know, he didn't quite catch the real sophisticated, you know, thoughtful, reflective me. But he always, his explanation for that was like that, you know, when he started doing Scrap Saturday, that very few people had ever really heard me, because I didn't.
They all think you sound like Owen Rowe, unfortunately.
Well, yeah.
You're going to carry that particular cross.
Maybe I did. Maybe how I sound now is a response to that. But I think his view on that was that no, people didn't know what I sounded like. The concept of the show was that Charlie Haughey was the all-dominating, scheming, plotting, devious power of the centre, and that I was some kind of Uriah Heep, and that served the purpose, of his concept, and it worked. And I'm afraid there wasn't any point in my making representations for him to change that. Because
you mean you're denying it, PJ?
yeah. No, it didn't bother me at all, not at all.
PJ, thank you again, as well as everybody else for joining us in this tribute tonight. And let's just hear a little bit more of Dermot's mimicry, and somebody that he made a reputation out of imitating, and somebody who unfortunately disappeared from the political scene a little bit too early as far as Dermot was concerned, and that's Gareth Fitzgerald, because long before Scrap Saturday, Dermot was building up a reputation as a mimic. Here's his take on Gareth Fitzgerald's preparation for the party leader's TV debate with Charlie Haughey during the 1987 general election.
Circumstances. Try it again now. Economic circumstances. Circumstances. I must speak slowlier. Slowlier than thou, Lord. Circumstances. These are the economic circumstances in which this country finds themselves are absolutely unprecedented. No, that's my opponent's phrase. I better leave that to him. We move on to Mr. Haughey's pedigree. Indeed, perhaps Mr. Reynolds be the man to help him with his pedigree, or indeed any other pet food. Mr. Haughey is a man who inspires fear in this country. Mr. Haughey is a man who's not to be trusted.
And he did that, and I know better than anybody, he did that completely off the top of his head. He would do that kind of stuff completely off the top of his head. What PJ was saying is true, Jerry and Donny, you both know this, that he was, unlike a lot of comedians, he was funny. He was a funny person. He was funny most of the time, wasn't he?
One of the things he once told me about his approach to mimicry, for example, he described his Jerry Collins, that his starting point for Jerry Collins was like an old jalopy trying to start on a cold winter's morning. or Desi O'Malley was a sheep in pain. That he had that curious ability that people really did take on much more the spirit of the person rather than the exactitude always of that. And just there he caught, even there in that spontaneous piece, he caught the spirit of Gareth Fitzgerald. And it was extraordinary that what began to happen. I mean, I think when we talked to Michael Noonan, I'm convinced Michael Noonan has adapted to try and be more like the impression of. I'm absolutely convinced of that. And that's what people love, because they recognise it isn't just that he's doing this by numbers, he's doing this, but that he's capturing a feeling that they had, a kind of, yes, that's the guy, that's what he's really like, that's the old soak that he is, or that's the chancer that he is, or that's the, whatever.
As his cousin and his almost namesake, Donna, what was it like operating with Charlie Haughey, Gareth Fitzgerald, and latterly Albert Reynolds as Taoiseach, while he was viciously on occasions lampooning them?
Well, Miles, you can see the colour of my hair, and I'm still trying to let it grow out. But I mean, as you know, Jerry, the Scrap used to go to bed on Friday morning. Now, we played football on Friday evening, and in the shower after football, I invariably got a preview of the next morning's Scrap. Now, you were listening to
with
PJ.
Your P45.
With my P45 tucked in my back pocket. And, I mean, it was deadly accurate. And I used to lose my life, saying, oh my God, I'm going to be fired, How am I going to live with this? And of course, it was the deep throat in the Taoiseach's office was feeding him all this stuff. But in fairness to him, he never compromised.
So people used to worry, would we lose our jobs with the stuff we were doing in Scrap Saturday? It's far more likely Donna would lose his job.
Now, the other side of Dermot was that he was always on the go. The mind was always working, the brain was always working, but sometimes it was working too hard, i.e. he could be extremely disorganised and could be very difficult to work with at times. For that reason.
It could be, yeah. You see, I mean, where he sold it to me straight away, and where I became a loyal follower forever afterwards, whatever about any misgivings I may have had, but was, because the first time he spoke. It wasn't the first time he ever spoke to me, but the first time he spoke to me about Scrap Saturday and persuaded me to write stuff for him. I thought I was going to be one of a giant team of writers, by the way, and then I found myself in a lonely room. But that he...
Lonely sweet,
lonely sweet. Oh, absolutely.
He always did it in style.
Always did it in sweet. But like, he swore blind to me, and this is absolutely true, that this programme would be the biggest thing to hit Irish comedy, to hit Irish radio, to hit Irish... And I sat there thinking, yeah. But you're going to pay me a few bob to write some sketches, so that's all right. And when I realised 4 or 5 weeks later, literally as soon as that I don't believe it, he's right. He was right. He had the ear of the country on this matter, and he was right. And it really taught me forever after that no matter how often he was wrong, I'd still better hold on to the possibility that he'd be right, because he had a great sense of what, and also he had that thing which we lack in Ireland, and I'm sorry that we lack in Ireland, which is like he really was an idealist. He had faith that you could do bigger and better things, and it really like if people found difficulties with him, for me it was always because no wonder if he felt he was being held back from something he really thought he could achieve.
Okay, so you're the man, Jerry Stembridge is the man who was promised sweets by Dermot Morgan. Oh dear. Somebody who was promised
a free lunch.
Somebody who was promised nothing by Dermot Morgan, but he was lampooned, and I hope is now hearing us in the Limerick studio, is Michael Noonan. Michael, can you hear us?
I can, of course.
How you doing, Michael?
How you doing?
We talked Limerick here for a while. How you doing?
Michael, Jerry has just made the point that you have, since Dermot lampooned you, began to, and indeed Jerry himself on Scrap Saturday and elsewhere, that you have been attempting to live up to that you have basically modelled yourself on his model of you.
Well, you see, I got very friendly with Dermot, and we did a deal that any inexactitudes in his imitation I'd iron out. So I moved a little in his direction, he moved a little in my direction. So we became interchangeable for a finish.
See, I grew up in Limerick knowing that Michael Noonan was a teacher in the classy Jesuit school up there. He was nothing like the Limerick knacker that Dermot turned him into.
Well, Jerry, you know, the first time I saw you was outside the polling booth reading a book, and I thought you'd never make it in politics. the voters passing
they were passing me by,
passing you by, not taking any notice of you. But he was a genuinely funny guy, and he was funny socially in company, and he was funny on his programme, and I don't think anything ever happened like it on R.T.E before or since. It was genuine political satire. Most of what passes for political satire in the media in Ireland is just variations on abuse.
You were one of the lucky ones, because you were one of the ones who did get imitated by him and did get lampooned by him. There were many other politicians who weren't quite as fortunate.
I suppose that's right. I suppose a lot of people would love to have been in the position, especially now, of having been lampooned by him and being in the archives. But I remember when Scrap Saturday came on first, I didn't know it was coming, and I was listening to it one morning, listening to R.T.E, and it came on, you know, and it was absolutely gripping stuff, absolutely amazingly gripping, and it was very risky as well. It was totally different from anything R.T.E had ever done before, and of course eventually it got too hot to handle for R.T.E, and they dropped it, which was a great pity. One of the great tragedies is that as all the tributes are being paid tonight, Dermot Morgan really became a national star thanks to television stations in the United Kingdom, not to R.T.E.
And that is something, Jerry, which he resented. I mean, let's be honest about it, let's be straight about it. He resented the way he was treated by R.T.E, both radio and television.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about that today, because, you know, I mean, we should... the pleasure of Dermot's comedy.
Lest we be accused of not addressing it.
But the level of his anger against R.T.E was enormous, and rightly so, because people have to remember that if you are a performer, if you are a comedian, if your raison d'etre is the kind of social political comedy that he does, to be cut off from the principal source, the national airwaves, whether radio or television. I found it very significant tonight that in the television report that was on, they had to go back to 1980 to find a programme that Dermot was part of, or around 1980, the live mic. That's 18 years ago. And yet everybody is talking about his extraordinary talent. Everybody recognised, the whole country recognised the extraordinary talent. It's one of the phenomenon of the age, really, is that it wasn't.
One of his other passions, as we know, was football, and over the years he has made friends of various footballers and a couple of soccer managers, including the current manager and coach of the Irish football team, Mick McCarthy. Mick, you're very welcome.
Hi, Miles. How are you doing?
I believe you, like Billy McGrath, Mick, were present last Friday for the recording of The Last Father Ted.
Yeah, I was. I was there with my family, with my wife Fiona and my 3 children.
And was he in good spirits? How did he appear?
I tell you what, he was in wonderful spirits. It was his last show, and I think when you've been on something for 8 weeks or more constantly, he was on a high. He'd finished it. It had gone well. It was a great finishing, great finale, and it just tied up contracts with the BBC. Things were going well for him, and he was on a high, and he was on good form.
Now, he was a mad keen soccer fan, and I want to find out, is it true, as he told me on many, many occasions, that you constantly pestered him looking for advice on how to manage the Irish soccer team?
I did, actually. Yeah. No, actually, I think one of my and his biggest regrets were the day I actually met him. He told me he was playing in a five-a-side competition in Dublin, and I was hankering for a game because I was staying in Dublin that time, and I threw all these hints to him looking for a game, and he never took them up.
Yeah, well, you see, he would throw hints to you on many occasions as well, looking for a start on the Irish soccer team. He would always bring his boots with him, and you never took him up, so that was probably the reason.
Yeah, I just thought he was. If I was going to pick a senior player, it was going to be myself. I was going to pick myself before him. And I had no chance of a game, and I told him on many occasions he'd even less chance.
You probably know Dermot's cousin Donna, cousin and friend, and also fellow soccer addict. Just put in perspective, Donna, this addiction that he had with the game of football.
Well, there's a funny story that goes with that, Miles, and Mick will remember it.
How are you doing, Donna? How are you?
Good, Mick. How are you doing?
Well, I'm great, but I'm obviously upset as well because I lost a good pal. I haven't known him long, but
but you had become good pals, and I know that he was due to go down to your place in a couple of weeks' time. But I was just going to tell the story of I think it was before the last international, and we were out having 1 or 2 pints together with yourself and Ian Evans, and we bumped into Clive Anderson, and we got into a big soccer conversation. And as you know, Dermot was big into the football. But the following week, he went to London and he met Clive Anderson, and he said, Clive asked him, how is that cousin of yours the assistant manager of the Irish team? So I'm looking forward to sitting beside you at the next international, Mick, and giving you some advice.
No problem. I'm open to any advice.
And we might give you a run out in the five-a-side the next time you're over.
Mick, I don't know, did you ever hear...
it's Jerry Stambridge now, Mick.
How you doing? I don't know, did you ever hear a great gag he did at the tail end of one of his Eamon Dunphy pieces, where he claimed that Mother Teresa would never make an international defender. You actually have it, have you? Have you got to study about it?
Well, he's a good player. She's a good player. She's not a great player.
Exactly. And he said she'd never make the national defender because she'd always be caught for pace, just like Mick McCarthy.
Mick, you might actually, before you leave us, and thank you very much for talking to us, you might actually like to hear this. Hang on, this is...
Well, actually, can I tell you, I'm actually here with... I'm here with 1 or 2. I'm in a pub having a drink to absent friends with 3 Irishmen and another good pal of his, Jack Charlton. So
you're there with Jack.
Yeah, we are.
Well, give him our best.
I will, of course, but we will miss him because I've become good friends with him. I've known him nearly not 18 months, and he was such a lovely man. And I feel so sorry for everybody that. Especially Fiona and Ben, his other sons from his marriage, and I really will miss him. I've become a very close friend of his.
Yourself and Jack can raise a glass in his honour, and...
Well, I'm having a drink to absent friends, and I have to tell you, I know for a fact, he'll be somewhere looking down on us, and he'll be quite envious that I'm sat having a drink without him. But he would have moved, I know he would.
Okay, well, you and Jack, I think, would enjoy this. This is from Scrap Saturday a couple of years back.
R.T.E is like Millwall. It's a hostile place. Not quite as cold, obviously, and perhaps a little bit more colourful, but it's a rough environment. I have met polar bears.
Beautiful animals.
Polar bears are bullies.
They are wonderful
They think they are nasty guys. I remember going in hard against this polar bear, trying to win the herring he had, and he hurt me. The polar bear was physical enough. He was hefty enough to hurt me, but Gilesy wasn't phased. He had the breadth of vision. He just smiled at the bear and broke his ankle. ankle. Now, hold
on.
He had to do that.
With respect.
No, I'll tell you another time when we were with Ireland, right? And myself and Ray Tracy, we were behind, right? We met these baby seals. Baby seals are pretty. They're beautiful.
Yes.
They have big eyes.
Exactly.
And Ray and I had been away from home on this tour for a while, and we were starved of female company.
Now, hold on. What are you suggesting?
Football does that. So we asked the baby seals to dance, but Gilesy, the consummate pro, just kicked their heads in and sold their pelts to Joe Kinnear. That took Bottle and the club.
Oh dear. Success, did it change him, Donna?
No, I think the soccer is very important. It was important to him. It was important to the people around him. I've been listening to the tributes all day from the well-known names, but I think there was a group of people around him, sort of blood brothers, soul friends, the A-team, people like Pat Finn that you've played with, Peter Redmond. And, you know, he did an interview years ago on the Evening Press, and he said, "It's my friends help me to keep my feet on the ground." We never let him forget that.
Indeed. There, gentlemen, we have to leave it. Thank you both. From November 1990, in a week where Michael Noonan was a local Limerick TD, where Quinsworth was owned by Quinsworth. Mike Murphy thought fire extinguishers were art, and one of the world's most powerful leaders, one Margaret Thatcher, was forced to stand down. And Dermot, if you're listening somewhere, from all of your friends and from all of your admirers, as you used to say yourself, we'll be talking to you, kid.
Well, I would just like to pay tribute to a great leader, a world figure, who has strode the world stage with other great world leaders, President Bush, Chairman Gorbachev, myself. But of course, it's axiomatic that all leaders must eventually, at some time in the long run, finally depart, with the odd, very rare exception.
I'll hand back Hazeltine. Tuesday, well, I won, didn't I? Wednesday, no, never, I will not. Thursday, out, out, out. Friday, Maggie who? Scrap Saturday.
Tuesday, Paris. Dear Diary, I tell boss that Maggie is winged and is sure to go, but he is still besotted. Here's herself. Fair play. She's not letting it show, but I think Heseltine has her.
I wish I had her. She's magnificent. A doughty fighter, spirited, never say die.
She never knows when to lie down.
Oh, indeed, I think I might be able to change her on that particular issue.
Now, don't be upsetting yourself, boss. You've only the one change with you.
It's like being with history. I walk tall in her presence. She makes me feel big as the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, boss, look, you're going to destroy yourself.
All right, class, time for catechism. Now, who made the world? Let's see. James McGee.
Who made the world? Good question. Let me see. This would have been when? A couple of million years ago, I suppose. I think it was. And it wasn't the big Bulgarian boy, Alex Sokolov.
That's a very simple question, Jimmy.
Couldn't have been the Russian Stepashkin. I don't think it was him.
Jimmy.
My money's on the man who divided the sea from the land. Tremendous week-long performance, creating the world. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't the one and only Lord God Almighty, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're not, Jimmy. Now, how many commandments did God give to Moses?
Sister.
Yes, anybody? No.
Sister.
James McGee, the only one again. Now, it's not fair to leave it all to one boy. All right, James.
Are we talking about the Old Testament?
We are, Seamus.
Let's see now. What have we got? 10 commandments. First, no false gods. Could be tested for idolatry. Second, keep holy the Sabbath day. Why not? It's a big day for sport as well. God must have been a big sports fan. Third, if I recall correctly, is no false gods.
Yes, but how many?
Fourth, honour your father and mother. Why not? About time they won something. All the hard work and toilet training. And fifth is what Mick McCarthy's been getting away with. Murder. So murder, a red card.
How many commandments, James?
Wait a while. Adultery, that's very popular at international level. Bearing false witness, so one thing and another, all in all. What about 10 commandments in all?
Correct. Now, who denied our Lord 3 times?
Peter, sister.
Very good,
Peter,
James, very good.
sister.
Now, definitely someone else. Who was Peter?
Well, it might have been Hans-Peter Briegel's sister, also very close for Germany in the 1982 World Cup final. Might have been Peter Beardsley, back and forth for England. Great little battler, but he's only 28. We're talking about 33 AD. Couldn't be Pete Kaiser, could it? The great
Excuse me, Mr. Quinn.
Hello, madam. Welcome to our store. I hope you're feeling comfortable. Tommy, come here. This lad will help you in every way, madam.
Well, I just have to say, Mr. Quinn, aren't you a little dear?
Well, it depends on what you mean by dear. I'm a little dear, sweet little man, I suppose, and so is Tommy. Smile, Tommy, smile. The customer.
No, I mean, you charge too much. I mean, isn't it cheaper up there?
Don't you say that word in my... I mean, one must pay a teensy little bit extra for quality and service, madam. Can they beat our service? Now sit down on Tommy there. Here, relax. Bend over, please, Tommy. Yes, backwards, of course. Now, madam, isn't it fun shopping in Super Quinn?
Well, it's not so much fun if a body can't afford to pay the kind of...
Now, I think you'll find us very reasonable as you go around the store. Tommy will carry you around there. Lift, madam, would you, Tommy? Service, you know, top-class service.
Oh, to put me down, for God's sake, what are you doing?
He's helping in any way he can. That's our motto here. Perhaps madam would like something more intimate. Tommy, take your clothes off, would you?
No, look, all I'm saying is I don't see why I have
Service, madam, you'll come for the quality, you'll come for the service, you'll come again and again. I know, Tommy, take it easy.
I just wanted to buy
He's
a
one of our best lads. He's one of our best
also,
Tommy.
I suppose a bar of life by
It's comedy time again with Porrick and the gang and their funny Stone Age ways. Meet the Flynn family in... Meet the Flintstones. Oh, Porrick, I've never bought so much shopping all at once. It's so heavy.
Well, aren't I helping you, pet? I'm carrying the free £6 voucher.
Yes, I know you are. Thank you, dear.
Is the tea made yet?
Well, I haven't even had time to put down the shopping, dear.
Lord, but you're an awful whining woman. And me with a thirst on me after a hard day. Before long, you'll be refusing me my conjugal rights.
Oh, I'll never do that, dear. I mean, you ask so rarely these days.
Hiya, Porrick. Hiya, Wilma.
Hello, Bertie. Did you get your £6 voucher at the supermarket?
Oh, no, Porrick. Betty is away at the moment, so there ain't no one to do the shopping.
Sure, don't worry. Wilma will get everything for you, won't you, love? As soon as you have the tea made for Bertie and me.
Of course, Bertie, dear.
You have to watch Wilma, though, Bertie. She'll be buying you all this environmentally friendly stuff. And, of course, you and I both know that that's all rubbish. A bit of an idea dreamed up to fool the women. Amn't I right?
Well, I guess so. You're the expert on the environment, Porrick.
Oh, I don't know about that, Bertie. But I'm an expert on women. I'm not green when it comes to them.
You sure are right, Porrick. Where did you learn to treat women like that? I wish I could.
Oh, it comes naturally. I learnt it at my mother's knee and other low joints. Ha! A cheap sneer at a great politician. Politics is a rough game. Because Joe Soap doesn't understand what is going on. The voting public cannot get the true picture. Take Porrick Flynn, as we have just heard, vilified for a typically courageous stand against Robinson, the people's favourite. The easy thing to do would have been to say nothing about her reconstructed interest in her family. That would have been the easy way out. No, Porrick Flynn has suffered at the hands of the image makers. He is not a golden boy. Not for him, the pretty features of Robert Redford. Okay, oh yeah, he is technically an ugly guy. Yes, he does narrow his eyes a lot. He squints. I understand that. He does look shifty, but as Marshall McLuhan has said, the medium is not the message. His face is not his political message. This guy is a guy from another age, an age when men had to hunt to provide, hunt with only crude implements hewn from stone. He is the man who really cares about our much vaunted environment, who has fought tooth and nail for an atmosphere that is free from both the smut of bituminous coal and, in a wider sense, free from the moral smut of the godless. Thus, he is pilloried for his solid values. Make no mistake, Porrick Flynn is the right stuff. The extreme right stuff.
Dear Diary, Wednesday, homeward bound. Patch still hanging on. Oh, another day, another summer. What, boss?
What's that?
Oh, it's nothing, boss.
Give it to duty free, for God's sake. I'm trying to get to know the Canadian Prime Minister, and you're trying to get to know Canadian Club.
That's very good.
Put it away, except for that one there.
Okay, sorry. There's a paper cup for you, boss.
A glass, PJ. Get me a glass.
Okay, there you are.
That's better. Look down there. Paris. La belle ville de Paris. City of romance. The French, they have panache. They have Valin. They have champagne. Our peasants are revolting, by which I refer to 99% of our parliamentary party.
Boss, they're not the worst.
They are too. I hate Fine Gael, but they're used to having a few bob at least. And that whippersnapper Bruton, he has his own farm. No land deals for him, bastard. But at least he has a few bob. And Peter Bloody Barry with his tea chest of treasure trove. At least they know about the finer things, like using a knife and a fork. Our crowd are barely used to walking on their hind legs. I've wasted my time at Ardeshina using rhetoric, urging them to follow me. I should have just pursed my lips and whistled. Fine Gael with their gentry. Me, I get shagging show band managers and pet food magnates. Barry would know which wine to choose for Mitterrand. Collins or Reynolds would be offering him a pint.
You're getting yourself worked up again, boss.
Unbelievable, yeah. It really is a wonderful exhibition.
Yes, Mike, and a very important one.
Of course, yeah. Now that piece there is very striking, yeah, isn't it? Though a tad abstract, perhaps, would you say?
That's a fire extinguisher, Mike.
Wonderful, yeah. What's the title?
No, Mike, it's a fire extinguisher hanging on the wall.
Fire extinguisher hanging on the wall, indeed. The title is so evocative, isn't it, really? So redolent of a post-neo, ultra-crazy...
Mike. You see, it just happens to be hanging there.
Oh, naturellement, yeah. It could just as easily be stood on the ground or on a table, but the artist chose to hang it. Symbolic, perhaps, of hanging to our lives by a thread, do you think? Death by fire and all of that?
No, Mike, it's only there to put out fires.
Highly symbolic, I agree. Putting out fires, a sign of purification, that striking red motif, the cold, steely texture, and that hose effect, a phallic metaphor, of course. Who is the artist?
The fire brigade, Mike. Now, if you'll just come over here, I'd like to
Really?
have a
So
look at
the boys in the helmets, well, fair dues to them, that's what I say. They all got together, put their hearts and souls into it, and came up with this delightful exhibit.
It's not an exhibit, Mike.
Yeah,
no,
not an exhibit. Extraordinary, yeah, well... Just because they are firemen, perhaps? Disgraceful snobbery on the part of the organisers, I should have thought. In any other country of the world, that would be a winning award. If we had even...
No, Mike, the point is, it's not art.
Not art, indeed.
No.
Not at all.
No, I'm afraid not. It's just a fire extinguisher
Yeah.
for use in the event of a fire. It has nothing to do with the exhibition at all.
Well, there you are, then. The incredible story of the fire extinguisher that everyone was fooled into thinking was part of that extraordinary exhibition of new Irish art, and caused a huge furore on the local art scene indeed. Strangely enough now, I did a little documentary on the fire brigade a few years ago, a sort of PR thing, and there was this charming fella there.
Wake up, Maggie, I think I got something to say to you.
Wake up, Maggie. The party's over. Yes, indeedy. It's your favourite TD DJ on FGFM. Morning, noon and night. Of course, we have our own no number one now, in Fine Gael. Johnny Baby. We have a no broom, and we're going to sweep clean. Sweep Fianna Fáil out of power. We are the party. Johnny said it. The party of Ireland and the party of Europe. We're the party of Africa and the party of Afghanistan. We are the world. We are the people. It's all going to be different under Johnny Baby. Of course, he didn't get there on his own, Certain people had to help him to the throne. I'm naming no names. Modesty forbids yours truly from claiming his due share of the credit. But I think we have a new star. I know we have a new star. We have made a new star, haven't we, Johnny? We made you. You heard his press conference this week. Fine Gael are the people. First, we're going to end the war in the Gulf. Then we're going to find a cure for cancer, change the road signs to Polish, and raise the ambient temperature by 10 degrees centigrade. We'll be looking at Articles 2 and 3, Articles 3 and 4. We're looking at all sorts of articles, newspaper articles, articles of clothing, definite and indefinite articles. Johnny hasn't ruled in coalition, he hasn't ruled it out. That's what we want, clear leadership. We're attacking the centre, taking the right, recapturing the left. He will be organising the parliamentary party, the non-parliamentary party. We'll not only be organising parties, we'll be throwing them. There's so much talent in our party. John will be giving an opportunity to those in the back benches to sit on the front benches. Not mine, I hope, Johnny, baby. You wouldn't want to vex someone as senior as myself, Johnny, or we might call you Al. And you know how we dealt with them?
This case is one of the most serious to come before a court in this jurisdiction, Your Honour, certainly in my memory. The accused is, to my mind...
Who is the accused?
The accused man is a man who styles himself... one moment, Your Honour, to consult my solicitor. Who the hell is he again? One Desmond O'Malley, whose guilt we will show the court to be palpable, irrefutable, and manifest.
What exactly is he accused of?
Well, if it pleases the bench, the matters whereof we speak are unsuitable for the ears of the general public. If it pleases my lord, perhaps the court should be cleared.
Please continue. What is he accused of?
If I might just clear this frog on my throat. What's he accused of? Good God. Your Eminence, the court will learn of a shocking and crude assault, an attack so vile, so unspeakable, that it beggars the imagination. Desmond J. O'Malley stands accused, Your Holiness, of attempted reform on the legal system.
Oh, dear. Oh, disgraceful.
Quinsworth cuts a dash and cuts the cost of your shopping. Buy a farm fresh chicken at Quinsworth and get 2 free cases of champagne and your money back. Need a pint of milk? Buy it at Quinsworth and we throw in a cow absolutely free. And in our fresh fruit department, every orange you buy entitles you to 2 return tickets to California to see your very own 100-acre orange grove with a 5-bedroom villa thrown in. Avail now of our free delivery service and you get to keep the car it arrives in with a non-returnable chauffeur. Quinsworth. Now that's real value.
What I'm trying to tell you, PJ, is that we have just visited the greatest centre of culture in the modern world. What I wouldn't give to turn Merrion Square into the Elysian Fields and government buildings into the Elysee Palace.
Now, boss, the new buildings we took over from UCD will be magic altogether. Your own Elysee.
Yeah, I could drive up like...
Oh, sweep! You could sweep!
Yeah, I could sweep up to my palace, to the Doyle, in one of those French cars. You know, like Day of the Jackal.
Oh, that's beautiful.
What about the shagging ushers? Oh. Could we get the lads, to wear silver helmets and stuff?
I'll have a word with R.T.E and see if they have any gear in the wardrobe.
I'd be the true world figure then.
Oh, you already are, boss, you are. Should have met about you in Paris.
Indeed. Look at it below there.
Oh, it's lovely.
Paris. It's a great city. La belle ville de Paris.
Oh, you're fluent, boss. Neither on to be giving you a phone, yeah?
Why not? After all, France is my spiritual home.
Ah, no, boss.
It's not widely known, perhaps, that many of my people went on the flight of the Earls. They were wild geese.
Wild man yourself, boss.
My great-grandfather's people were Bonapartes. Napoleon is a personal ancestor of mine. Even to this day, I have relatives who are personal security advisors in Corsica, while Grand-Père Jean-Pierre Hohy had his own vineyards and wine fields in the Loire, and my grandmaman was a garlic crusher in Metz. She was in the resistance, was arrested by the Gestapo for her table manners in a bistro near Montmartre. And apart from 1939, when I cancelled a cycling holiday along the Maginot Line, I went to France every summer, but I confess I never managed to learn that much of the language, as my cousins, the Marceaus, were people of few words. But I carry the Song of the Seine in my heart and pine for Provence in equal measure. And the Eiffel Tower is a beacon to my soul.
There's the Ballymun Towers now, boss. Don't forget, you'll have the lads in the cabinet to put the manners on this week.
Paris, Gorbachev, Bush, Thatcher, the summit. Just when I push my burden to the top of the hill and I reach the heights, I roll back down into the mud. I'm a veritable Sisyphus.
No way, boss. You're a man's man.
Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat. Limerick Treaty 300 is where it's all at. Ah yes, we've had lots of requests for more poetry and culture here on the Treaty 300 Roadshow, and where better than Limerick to come looking for such things. Limerick is steeped in a great literary tradition going back to the days when the Blind Bards Convention was held annually in King John's Castle. All the blind bards of Ireland would make their way, as best they could, to the gaunt, forbidding fortress that guarded the island of Limerick. And there they would sit, writing satires and beating each other up, which is another great tradition still revered in Limerick today. But enough of the past, what of the present? Poetry flourishes still on the banks of the Shannon, where every Sunday the Treaty 300 Poetry Circle meets and reads. Teams such as the delights of O'Connor's Black Pudding, buying back numbers of Ireland's Own on Little Catherine Street, and urinating from the Whistling Bridge, where we've all passed a lot of water these last 300 years. These are discussed and explored, followed by community singing, corned beef sandwiches, and a short explanation of the meaning of life by a visiting Redemptorist missionary from the Philippines. And now, thanks to Treaty 300, you too can join in the weekly hilarity of our Poetry Circle. Anyone can enter this very simple competition to write an epic poem about Limerick in the style of Homer. The poem need not be longer than 260 8-line Alexandrian verses and should reveal a cosmic vision of our beautiful city while keeping within the bounds of good taste, of course. And the grand prize will be free membership of the Poetry Circle for an entire year and a copy of Father Doyle's book of short verses for adult saints. Now I know a few of you will want to miss this one, so get down and get to it, as a poet might say, and lay that verse on me, baby. Go, go, go with 300.
Coming to your TV screens every day, the terror of rampant food. The mouth that quells and destroys all culinary resistance. The carbohydrate killer. TV, middle-aged Mutant Davis.
Here's a little morsel of suckling pig, apple and mouth and all. Come to me, lovely.
And so ends the pathetic life of the savage suckling pig. When moron weirdo proteins disguised as giant T-bones hit the streets, Mutant Davis is there to stop their trail of destruction.
A wee dollop of pepper sauce there, out with the giant laser steak knife. This is where you get your steaks. Cowabunga.
A major Kodak freeze-frame moment. But marauding salmon attack innocent women, luring them on with hollandaise sauce.
Help, Mutant Ninja, help!
Not so fast there, Salmon. I'll just scrape that hollandaise sauce off. Now, you can't harm anyone, can you?
Gee, thanks, Mutant.
Actually, I'll polish them off entirely, just to be on the safe side.
Yet again, Mutant Davis saves the day. Soon there is no deadly killer food anywhere.
I could do with a wee snack now, you know that?
Oh no, he's coming for me. And you watch out too, folks. Middle-aged Mutant Ninja Davis will be coming for you every day, live at 3. Lock up your larders. And now, the continuing saga of Bernie in Baghdad. It was Thanksgiving in the Gulf. The smell of roast turkey wafted across the Iraqi border from the American camp in Saudi. To Bernie, it was the smell of freedom. As she awoke under the bush she had hidden in for the night, she felt dirty, despondent, and fearfully hungry.
God, I'd rip the leg off a turkey now.
But she knew it couldn't be.
And some stuffing, lovely sausage meat stuffing.
She knew it couldn't be.
Oh, but it can't be. That's lousy, that is, and the smell of it up my nose.
Her exhausted mind wafted back to Barna, lovely Barna, and the Christmas when all the family gathered together in the rambling old farmhouse, and Bernie's dad, a broad, bronzed horse of a Connemara farmer, would stand at the dinner table and say,
God bless us, everyone.
Or something like that. And then the entire family, with festive cheer, would tuck in. In Bernie's mind's eye, it was very bliss. But instead of holly, candles, a quaint crib, and a brightly lit tree, Bernie's life was now arid, sandy wastes. A bush for comfort, and a life on the run from the dreaded dictator, Saddam.
This is gorgeous.
Her only comfort was Ahmadina, a poor but terribly loyal old Iraqi widow who also lived in the bush and had taken the Galway lass in and offered her the comforts of what the starving wretch was pleased to call home.
But sure, what else would I be after doing? And the poor girl near death's door from the tiredness.
Bernie had not needed to teach Ahmadina English. Many years before, in happier times, when she had a brief spell as Saddam's concubine, she did a diploma in Celtic studies at Trinity College. Ireland was in her blood.
Do you know Mr. Singh?
No, there was never any sings in Berna.
But this morning as Bernie awoke fully, she became aware that Emma was near her with tears in her eyes. Bernie forgot her own dilemma in her sympathy for this sad old cast-off woman.
What's up with you?
Emma could scarcely look Bernie in the eye as she replied in death knell tones.
Our great lord, mighty Saddam, he is after getting hold of your friend, so he is. He will be killed surely if you wouldn't be after coming back. His name is Tom.
The appalling Iraqi heat could not prevent the cold fear sweeping through Bernie, the love of her life here in Iraq, and captured by Saddam. Bernie howled with tragic intensity.
The bloody Egypt, what did he go and do that for?
And together the women began to keen.
Oh, your grief, you've lost him surely. You have lost the only playboy of the Western world.
Emma had always wanted to say that line. Next week, showdown in the Gulf.
Dunn Stores welcomes all its shoppers and wishes to announce some special bargains this evening. Quinsworth Supermarkets, only $4.99 per branch or $10.99 including personnel. Super Quinn, $5.99 the lot. And for an extra 58p, you can have a half share in Fergal Quinn. And of course, don't forget our Morris, Pratt and Fergal Quinn dolls, only $8.99 including pins for sticking, dressed in rags with removable heads. They'll be good for a laugh all through the festive season. We would like to wish all our shoppers, and of course we've now got them all, a peaceful and holy Christmas.
Right, let's have a look at the Scrap Saturday menu. Well, there was Dermot Morgan. You know, he'll have his chips if I get my hands on him. Pauline McGlynn, a gamey bird. She's involved as well, and I'll ruffle her feathers, I'm telling you. Owen Rowe, broth-up boy. I'll certainly land him in the soup. And Jerry Stembridge, the Limerick ham. Oh, there's no cure for him. R.T.E's John Penrose, well, he'll certainly get his just desserts. I'm telling you, Dermot Morgan and Jerry Stembridge should get a roasting for some of that stuff they have in that scrap.
Scrap Saturday from Q Productions for R.T.E.